Tanse, I'm Jules Thomas.
I'm Cody Trottier.
Welcome to the Native Room.
Welcome.
Today we're discussing missing and murdered Indigenous people. First off, we just want to start off with saying that we, this is a serious and uncomfortable topic. We almost didn't want to do this episode. We don't feel like we're like super educated in this topic, but we're aware of the issues, but we never deeply understood it. Many Native men are probably in the same position.
We don't want to stay silent anymore either. We're speaking as men trying to learn publicly, acknowledge families still grieving and searching, using the term Mmip, missing and murdered Indigenous people. Indigenous women and girls remain at the heart of this issue.
Yeah.
Includes Two-Spirits people and men.
Yeah. Learning publicly is better than ignoring privately. So that's what we're trying to do with this episode here. Like I said, we're not experts. We're not, we're not trying to come into this like we fully understand what the MMIP, the movement, and the people behind it, and the families involved. We just we want to use our platform here to acknowledge and create awareness, and
to learn.
And to learn as well. Yeah.
So you were raised by a single mom as well as I?
Yep, yeah. That's right. So that's that's one of the things with especially with us being raised by single women, is that we know how vulnerable women are, and we know because we grew up with a lot of cousins, female cousins and aunties and stuff like that, and we have this serious connection with our women. And
so how did being raised by single mothers affect you, and or like in the eyes or the guise of missing and murdered Indigenous women? Like, do you see struggle? What's the key factors? I guess I don't know.
I think for my part, being raised by a single mom who was battling her addictions early in life and throughout her life and through my early life, I seen many things growing up, going to parties and stuff like that, being those kids who are at the parties while all the parents are drinking, and it you definitely see some things that you can't unsee, and these experiences will stay with you for the rest of your life. And sometimes you're too young to know what was right and what was wrong, and being that my mom was in her addictions while I was younger and stuff, and she did leave us with my cookum quite a bit when we were younger, so we stayed at my cookums a lot too, and my cookum was strong, but my cookum was also in residential school, so she had a different experience too as well, right? Like,
she was mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cookum was kind of mean,
yeah.
But I guess we kind of needed that. We needed to know she needed to be mean, because it was a mean world, right? So.
Yeah, but it was also, that stems from what they had to go through when they were at residential schools, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like,
I know my cookum, she had it pretty. When I used to ask her about residential school, she used to be like, "Oh, it wasn't." She would like kind of brush it off, like it wasn't, like it wasn't anything serious, and she's like, "Oh, it wasn't that bad," and this and that. But from what I heard from family and stuff, was that she had it really bad there, and she was you could tell us like as I got older, I didn't realize at a younger age, but as I got older, I realized that.
You realize why she was so mean?
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, yeah, but like while she was like emotionally closed off.
Yeah,
she was, but yeah, she wasn't overly affectionate with us, and you know, how like cookums are, you feel like they're supposed to be like loving and, you
Yeah.
know, and giving you, you know, all the squeezes and everything like that. You know, we didn't really get that. She cooked a lot, she cleaned a lot. You know, growing up at
Yeah.
her trailer, she chopped wood and all this kind of stuff and
Yeah.
hauled
Probably
water.
put you guys to work a lot too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
and that's what it was
they're
too.
like
Yeah,
strict disciplinarian, you
yeah,
know, because that's where like she probably got it from the residential schools. But yeah,
yeah,
you know, with my mom, you know, I had a single mom as well. She was in addictions, and you know, my father wasn't around, so there wasn't no one to teach me relationship responsibility, right? So like, I don't really, even right now, I don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. And you know, so that's, I think a lot of us are in that same boat, and that's a big part of why we have these dysfunctional homes. That and you know, that creates um this vulnerability. Like, our people are vulnerable because of that, right?
yeah,
Like, and I think that's a factor of why there is so much missing and murdered in people, right?
yeah,
Indigenous people, right? So I think that plays a big part of it. That intergenerational trauma, like it gets passed down, and you know, because we turn to alcohol, we turn to drinking, and you know, and we have these learned behaviors from from our older, from like the older men and
yeah,
stuff, and
yeah.
and like,
Well, from the men that were around, right?
yeah, that we were
Like, you know,
around.
like the uncles and our, you know, and our dads that weren't really around, and
Yeah,
like,
they were kind of, you know, they're a bunch of cowboys, really, you know.
yeah, they're, you know, their generations are different, and you know, like this is like such a serious topic that, you know, like a lot of this stems from like like everything, it goes back from residential schools, right? It happened like it's, you know, like the way our people act now, the way we treat each other,
Yeah,
the way that we live,
yeah, the
our
way that
society, like
the way that our
yeah,
families are
just the way
broken
our
down.
families are, you know, because of what happened in residential schools, it's affected our families and our way of life so much that, you know, we talk about, you know, these things, like a lot of people, you know, they try to shy away from the about the seriousness of the topic, and you know, like
Yeah,
how these women, how these men, how these, you know, like our two-spirited people, all are people that end up becoming missing, murdered, and
yeah,
what led to that, you
yeah.
know, like,
And what did we learn about women growing up, right?
yeah,
Like,
and you know, and the thing is, like, these people like have come from so much traumas as children, you know, like we talk about,
yeah,
you
like
know, like,
what I
oh,
learned about women growing up is very vulgar. Like, a lot of very vulgar stuff that my uncles and my grandfathers would say about women, right?
yeah.
And it wasn't a lot of respect there. That, like, and it was like that was kind of a two-way street, though. Like, there wasn't a lot of back and forth respect. But yeah, like,
Well, our uncles' ages and stuff like that, like, you know, that's when we started seeing, like, you know, like uh deadbeat dads, or they're having kids with a bunch of women, you know, like our dad's having kids with a bunch of women, you know, all these things. And
yeah, that was my understanding of relationships. You know, like, just men would go around and, like, you know, they would have kids with a bunch of women, and women would have kids with a bunch of baby dads, right?
yeah,
And that's what relationships look like. And that, you know, like, I even had like my uncle date my auntie. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Which is, they weren't related, but because of the way my family worked,
yeah,
I had an auntie and an uncle that were not related. You know, dating, or like, and there was also like, you know, people would cheat within their community. So like, someone would cheat with their sister's husband and have kids with
yeah,
them, stuff like that too. You know, it's like, that's pretty
yeah.
dysfunctional.
Well,
And
the biggest fallout from, you know, from residential schools was a lot of the kids were sexually abused,
yeah,
physically abused,
yeah, and
mentally
then
and spiritually abused.
and because of
And
that, you know, because of that, like, my mom, like, she had put a lot of shame around sex, right?
yeah, and
So
that's what it was. There was so much, there's so much shame around it. Like,
yeah.
even us as men, you know,
Oh, I was
like,
super ashamed. I
yeah,
was, you know, just because
just you just even to be like, to show vulnerability, or to show, like, your feminine side or anything like that,
Oh yeah, that was shamed.
or what they say is feminine, right? You know, like being loving, being, you know, be kissing, affectionate, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
You know, like we weren't even taught, like, you know, because we were raised by men or women, we weren't even taught, like, you know, like all these serious topics about our bodies or how we're supposed to treat women, how we're
yeah,
supposed to treat
yeah, and like
each
and
other.
not feeling
You know,
ashamed about like natural feelings that are going on when you're young. When you're a young man, especially when you're a
yeah.
young man, it's very difficult to
And your
like.
mind is changing, your brain is
Yeah,
developing, and all this stuff, and you don't know what is what and
yeah, you don't
who is
know.
who or anything like that. You don't know your body,
Yeah, you
and
don't know how
yeah,
to. You're supposed to treat
and yeah,
yourself with respect. You're supposed to treat
and that's
a
the biggest,
woman with
yeah, and that's
respect,
the
right?
biggest thing is that nobody was out there, and still it feels like there's nobody out there really teaching that to our people, and it's become this cycle where all this bad stuff happened to all these kids that were in residential school, and then these parents, you know, these kids become parents, they become aunties and uncles, they become, you know, siblings and all this stuff, and they don't know any better or any different, and then they all that stuff that happens to them, then they do that to their kids, their aunties, their cousins, their nieces, their nephews, and all this stuff. And it just gets worse and worse. And it like becomes this whole cycle thing. And then that's where you see like a lot of this, you know, where a lot of kids are being mistreated and all these, and families are being mistreated and they're mistreating each other, you know, and it's so serious and it's rampant, and
Yeah,
you know, people don't, then from the outside view, they just think, oh, these are just a bunch of dirty, crazy Indians that don't know what the hell they're doing and how to live and this and that.
our way of life was taken away from us.
Yeah, and they don't know. But yeah,
So
from the outside, yeah,
the respect
yeah,
for sexuality and the respect for relationships isn't quite there where it needs to be, and it's also is being raised by women, being a man raised by women. I don't think they were able to teach us emotional responsibility, right?
yeah.
And to be responsible for our emotions, because
Well, because
it's
for
a
a lot
different
of,
world
yeah,
for us.
because
It's a
for a
different
lot,
world for
yeah,
men, right?
because for a lot of them, they didn't know either, right? They
Well,
were,
well,
they were,
it's impossible.
yeah, especially when they were raised by,
You can't raise a woman can't teach you how to be a man. It's
yeah.
just impossible. You know, there's a lot of strong women out there, but the problem is, women don't understand the man's perspective, and it's vice versa, right?
Yeah,
It takes a man to raise a man, and
yeah,
that's the bottom line. That's just how I feel, and
yeah.
I think a lot of people would agree. And yeah, and
Yeah, because I know, like, yeah, with my boys and stuff, it's the same thing. You know, I'm trying my hardest to be this man, this male, you know, and trying to teach them these ways that I wasn't taught, right? And you know, I question myself. I question myself as a father every day.
yeah,
You know, like,
and you don't
am I doing this right? Am I raising my kids right? I don't know, because
you don't have no one
yeah.
to bounce your ideas
Yeah,
off
exactly.
of, right?
I
So,
like my dad
yeah.
wasn't there. Like my dad's passed away. Like I can't, you know, and the same thing from him. He was raised by residential school survivors.
Yeah.
You know, like he didn't know who his dad was until he was 18. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
Like, you know, speaking on that, like my dad's mom was missing and murdered. She was murdered when he was a baby. And I don't know the full story, but you know, like she was at a bar in Grand Prairie, and uh, she had left with somebody, and they had found her body by Fort St. John over there in the
Oh,
ditch.
wow. That's crazy.
Like I don't know the whole story, but you know, that's
Do
you
you
know,
think there's a reason why men, like, we don't talk about this? Like, what's the, like,
well, and that comes back to like vulnerability, right? You know, like
well,
guy,
yeah,
you know,
like,
like
for me,
for us guys, we don't just, you know, that's why this whole, you know, the whole MMIP is, you know, like it's such a, almost feels like it's a foreign topic, but even though it's a part of our people and stuff, it's still, as men, it still feels like it's like, you know, we're not educated in it. You know,
Yeah.
this is more. It feels like from what I've seen so far, it's a major like
it's uncomfortable.
It's a women-led initiative too,
Yeah,
right?
and it's as a man, it's uncomfortable, and you don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah,
as a
we don't
man,
definitely don't
like,
want to say the wrong thing.
I don't want to
like,
get canceled
yeah,
because I don't really understand.
Even just making this episode right now, it's like I don't want to say the wrong thing. Am I like, are we like I'm scared to say the wrong thing while I'm doing this because, like,
and then also maybe like some people feel like Native men, we are the problem.
Yeah.
Yes,
like, that's right.
And maybe that's true. Like I don't see it. I see some Native men definitely are the problem, but I think the majority of Native men are good men and want to learn and want to know and want to be right there beside you women in this struggle and in this fight. And that's what we need to realize. It is a small percentage of Native men that are contributing to this, but there's other factors, right? But we need to stand united for sure.
Yes, definitely. And like you said, it's an uncomfortable subject, especially as men, like we feel like, like there's been movements like Me Too movements, the whole MMIP movement, like all these things that are I feel as a male now, especially in my own personal relationships with women, that I have, like I try to be super aware. I'm trying to make sure that in every situation that there's consent. I'm trying to make sure like, that I come off, like I'm not trying to come off as a predator, or anything like that. Like when I speak to women, when I talk to women, when I'm in relationships with women, I try to make sure that, I'm aware of my surroundings, what I say and myself. Right. Yeah. And, just like my composure, how I present myself and stuff.
Yeah,
because
I think that's kind of important nowadays.
Especially
because of social media.
Because a lot of, especially if we're having relationships with our own Native women, or our own other, like our own race, right? Our own people, that that we got to be aware that they could have come from traumas. They could have come from sexual abuse.
It's highly more likely, right?
Yes, and they could have come from that, and we have to make sure that,
and they might have misconceptions of men, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to be very, you have to be like, you kind of walk on eggshells. Like you have to be a little more sensitive to that reality amongst the women of our race, right? Like, like something that you think is just normal that might come off to them as predatory or as, more like predatory. Yeah. And yeah, so like, what are some of the, this is just an open question for the viewers. This is like, in the comments, I would like to see like, what are like, some of the do's and don'ts as a man, like in the dating world, as an Indigenous man trying to date an Indigenous woman. What are the do's and don'ts? Like how, like for courting and for like dating, and those are some stuff that I would like to know, and I think a lot of our viewers would.
Well, especially from our female or women that come from traumas and stuff. And I keep saying women and stuff because of heterosexuality, right? So I go with women, so I say women, but I don't want to exclude our two-spirited people. Just being Native men, heterosexual Native men, we also aren't educated on that front as well.
Yeah,
so
because at the end of the day, awareness is not understanding, right?
Yeah, and like I have gay friends, and I'm super proud of a lot of them that are out there, and they're really outspoken. They're spokespeople for their people and for getting and their rights too, right? So. And that's the thing. Like we have so many two-spirited people out there that are doing amazing things for changing our views and perspective, and a lot of they go through a lot too. Like when I was on council, I felt like I had to fight to create awareness for two-spirited people in our community. Like when I was on council, I asked Oh, it was my little sister. My little sister, she asked me, she's like, "Are you guys doing anything for Pride Day?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know if there's anything going on. I had to ask and find out." And it turned out that there was nothing going on. And I talked I asked around, and people said they never had anything for Pride Month or Pride Day in our community. So I I didn't receive any funding or anything like that, and I paid for pretty much everything out of my pocket. The so I
Why
host
do you think you didn't receive funding?
well, because in like there's people, I feel like people were still like, especially on the reserves and
They're still stuck
and
in the
the small
past.
communities, it's taboo. It's
It's still it's
yeah,
still taboo.
yeah, there's the small
So they're still
mindedness
stuck in there.
right?
So
And yeah, and they're stuck in
so a
this.
lot of the
Yeah,
elders, I guess.
and well, a lot of the older generation, right? They're scared because they think, oh well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
they
don't,
still think in the
yeah,
old
they're
ways.
still they still think it's wrong, right?
Yeah.
And that's the damaging part for our people in these communities, because they become suicidal. They go to addictions, and
Yeah,
they
they
go to
get- yeah,
depression and
because they
everything
get-
because they
they're
can't
alienated,
because
right?
they can't be their true selves.
Yeah, because they're
You know, so
alienated,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So what I did was I designed the flyer and I put it out there that on Facebook that I was hosting our nation in Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation, our nation's first Pride Walk. And so I brought the barbecue out there. We had hot dogs and everything. I had my SUV with a big
Yeah.
speaker in the back. And
Did you have a big turnout?
yeah, it was a good turnout. And we blasted music, and we walked around townside cheering and everything like that. It was
Yeah, yeah.
it was
It was a good time.
yeah, no, it was amazing. And it was like, I was amazed that the turnout was amazing.
You felt support in the community.
And that's, and when I was on council, not just on council, but I felt like I was doing my part to support, right, to be an ally.
Yeah.
And
Did you
that's
feel support though, like from the community, like because you said there was a good turnout. So
yeah.
there must
Well, I
have
had
been
a
some
lot
support.
of inboxes and messages from band members and from people
and people that showed
yeah,
up.
yeah, from the community and stuff. And
That's good.
and it was like after that, I brought it to the health center, and they took part in helping hosting it the next year. And
Okay, so
yeah,
you made it.
and now our nation carries that on.
So all it took was one person to step up, and one person in power that was in a position of power at the time to step up. So that's what other communities obviously need to follow that formula, right?
And you can't be scared. You can't be scared to stand up for your beliefs, stand up
Yeah.
for other people
Well,
and
have
their beliefs too.
uncomfortable conversations, right?
Because it was like, oh well, like, what if they think you're gay, or what if they think this and that, right? And it's like, I'm comfortable with my sexuality. I know who
Yeah.
I am. And if my little sister, she wants to be, wants to know about her own sexuality, or she's questioning it, or she's questioning it or wants to know, then, and she wants to feel supported, or other people I know want to feel
Yeah, and
supported,
that's
then
what it's about.
100%.
That's what it's about. It's about our community.
I'll
right?
throw myself on the line for that, right? And
Yeah.
and that's what we have to do as men.
It's about
And
supporting each other.
Yeah,
It's
and that's
about
what
our
we have to
community.
do. Yeah, do as people as well, right?
Because doesn't matter your sexual orientation, you're still a person, you're still a community member, you're still valued.
Yeah.
Of course. And raising that awareness is just showing those people that might be on the fence about like telling the truth about who they really are, that they're valued, and it doesn't really matter what your sexual orientation is.
Yeah.
To us anyway, and it shouldn't matter to the majority of people, but there's stigma and the taboo is still out there, but we're gonna support.
Oh, 100%. And that's, like, even just with, like I said, with creating platforms like this, we have to be aware, and we have to, I believe that we have to do our part in creating creating awareness for these movements, right?
Yeah, and we're just trying to step up with MMIP right now, because like I don't know if everyone's heard of missing and murdered Indigenous peoples before. Like, I'm sure maybe they have, but maybe they, me at first, I didn't really grasp the seriousness of
oh yeah, 100%. Like
of missing and murdered Indigenous
Yeah.
people. Like to me it kind of felt distant, because like I just didn't really understand that it was actually was a lot closer than I
Yeah.
realized, because I have 5 sisters, right? And I got one sister that's, she's not, she's not dead or anything, but like she's like really lost. She's really far gone down the
Yeah.
rabbit trail. And my mom as well, like rest in peace, mom. But like she was really lost and really far gone down that trail. And I, yeah, like I just even to this day, like I'm not even sure how to help my sister. Like even if I'd go reach out to her, I don't know, like I wouldn't even know what to say. Like right now I'm helping my younger sister. She's having a little bit of struggles in life, and I'm helping her, but she's not like so far gone down the trail where But I also would like I would like some more understanding, of what I can do to help, and what we can do to make a difference.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
it's yeah, like I said, we use social media, we use our platforms, and
try to raise awareness,
try to raise awareness,
and try to learn,
and try to learn. Yes, and like both of us,
and try to figure out where we fit in.
yeah, exactly.
Like,
And
where do we fit in? Where do men fit in?
Yeah.
In this fight, right? In this struggle, in
and
this
that's
movement.
yeah. And the thing is, like, a lot of the people that are vulnerable, like our people on the streets, that are in that are in the sex trade, and those are our most vulnerable ones. Those are the ones who are, we see are missing, and
Yeah.
the ones that are murdered, and it's so serious. It's such a serious topic, and
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard for these families, because they're struggling with this, and a lot of our families are struggling with this. We have family like that are in the streets, and like even like us alone, we have cousins, we have family that live in the streets of Edmonton.
Yeah, I
and
see them every once in a while.
yeah, that live downtown. We see them.
And-
If we go
and they-
downtown, we're most likely going to run into somebody.
Yeah.
For them, it's like they're still suffering. They're suffering from their traumas, and
Yeah.
and that's what happens. Like when they're kids, they have all these bad things happen to them, these traumas, and then because they don't know how to deal with it, they turn to addictions, they turn to the streets, they turn
Yeah.
to the sex trades, and they're vulnerable, they're not protected. The police out there, they aren't protecting our people. The government,
police don't give a
the
shit.
politics, they're not
Politics
protecting
don't
our
give a
people.
shit, for sure.
And that's why
majority.
that's why we have these movements, because we have to step up. We have to start protecting our people.
Like many of the public voices of missing MMIP are women, mothers, sisters, aunties. That makes sense because they carry the pain directly, And events and advocacy often are led by women.
Yeah.
As men, sometimes unsure how to enter respectfully, and that's what we're asking. We want to help carry the torch alongside women and try to understand, because many cases involve domestic violence.
Yes, and that's one of
And
the big
sometimes
things
harm
too,
comes
yeah.
from men, but I want us to be, to be allies, like the good men, out here. We need to ally with women to figure this out, to prevent our
especially,
women
yeah.
and children and from going missing, and
Yeah.
and that's
Because
what I want.
because for a lot of the people, they know what's going on now, but for a lot of our men too, we don't know what's going on now. We know what's happened in the past, and we know that a lot of us we know the basics of where it comes from,
Yeah.
but we don't.
But what do we do?
Yeah, but what do we do? And we don't know like the day to day. Like we know like we
Like, how do we stop these men? These other men that are perpetrating these. Like, what is that the solution? And like, I'm not sure. Like, is it a whole like societal thing, or is it specific men that we need to maybe there needs to be harsher sentences for certain types of domestic violence, or like I don't know. Like, I don't know the solutions.
yeah.
And
Well, that's the thing. Like, you don't put your hands on women.
yeah, I don't. I
right?
believe that.
You
For
don't
sure.
put your hands on women. You don't do anything without consent. We need to heal. Like I can't say that enough, that we need to heal. we need to start moving towards healing and loving each other the right way and learning how to love each other the right way. It's scary out there, and
Yeah.
like with everything, like even just like seeing like Native men getting killed by police, any type of, not even just Native men, just like natives in general are out here
Yeah, we're all
getting
struggling.
getting
Yeah.
mistreated. Like I know I was mistreated by the police every time I got arrested. Like I don't, like I was doing crime, but at the same time I'm still a human being.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen the
No,
inside of young offenders. I've seen the inside of
that's happened to
remand.
me as well. Like when
Yeah.
I was 15, like I got beat up in the holding cells, because I was out of control, right? So they grabbed my head and they banged it against the concrete wall a few times, to teach me a lesson, I guess.
I've been beat down by the cops on 3 separate occasions. And that, like you develop traumas from that PTSD. You get triggered. Your anxiety gets triggered when you see police. Like anytime, like even if I'm like, just driving, like I have no issues. I have no issues, no warrants, no nothing. I'm a productive member of society, but as soon as I see a cop behind me, I start
Get a
getting
little worried.
scared.
Get a
I
little
start
worried.
getting scared. Like I start getting worried about getting pulled over and how I gotta act and react. And the same thing with my
Yeah.
kids. Like I gotta tell my kids about how you have to act around
Well,
police.
they especially target the vulnerable. I feel like police especially target young, like youth, and vulnerable people more than they do us now. Like nowadays, like it's a different story. Like, but I've seen it. But like, let's get back to like where do I feel like men fit in? Is I think men should listen first. We support without taking over. Our role is not leadership in this space, but there does need to be some initiative, right? And
Yeah.
and our role is to maybe change some behaviors.
Well, yeah,
or- or- or
100%. The behaviors need to be
perpetuate
changed. Yeah.
perpetuate behavioral change.
Yeah.
So like we can like like lead as an example on how to act and how to be, right, and then where to, and to like for men to be able to control their emotions, right? That's what needs to happen. Men need to teach other men, and I love that women are, taking the initiative.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
But
Taking
I
the
think to the
initiative.
real core of the issue is gonna have to be men teaching other men how to, smarten up.
Yeah.
Get your act together, right?
Well, yeah, and it just also, it's accountability, right? Being accountable for your actions, and
Yeah.
it's it's a tough like, oh man, this is such a tough topic.
Yeah, it
You
is.
know,
It really
and-
is,
and,
because
like,
like,
be- you know, like-
I'm sure I'm guilty of like,
Well,
like
even
the-
making-
the locker room talk.
Yeah,
right,
making
amongst men.
jokes and stuff like that.
I'm,
Like,
I'm guilty of that. Like, but it is jokes and it is locker room talk. Like, but maybe some men take
Well-
that a little more serious.
well, we can't, like we also, but you can't normalize the disrespect.
Yeah.
Like we got to stop normalizing that locker room talk. We got to stop normalizing how we talk about women when it's just us guys too,
Yeah.
right? Because like, especially if we have younger guys around us, they think, oh, well, that's cool. That's, like if we're bashing women, and saying this and that, and
Yeah.
saying whatever, these younger guys will think, oh, well, I guess that's the way.
Yeah, well, that's the peer pressure
Yeah,
aspect
exactly.
of it,
And then
right?
they think they're gonna. How do you think they're gonna start treating
yeah,
women?
the group
right?
mentality, and like I
Yeah.
said, like not everyone takes the locker room talk as a joke.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's not supposed to be a joke.
The key realization here is that these small or these serious harm often begins with small
Yeah,
disrespects.
yeah, that's right.
So let's put an end to this, the locker room talk, and
Yeah,
and,
check,
and, the,
yeah,
and
just
the,
checking your friends,
Yeah.
checking your bros respectfully, right?
yeah.
And that's what it is. And it's like, well, let's have some respect. Let's, maybe we need to, and start celebrating our women, start treating them differently, start treating them better, and we'll see, then you can start seeing how that'll affect all of us as a bigger picture, right? The change, right? And, and then the same thing is too, is like even looking the other way. Like we can't look the other way anymore. Like we have
well,
to.
I don't look the other way. Period. Like today, like there was an old man that he was like walking along today with his bags, and he tripped and fell, and he like stumbled and he rolled down a bit, and he looked like he's in pain, and he kind of like waved his hand and like was looking for someone to like pull over and to help him, and like, and I was going the complete other way, and I was just watching people just drive by. Nobody really paid no mind. But yeah, he was, looked like he was in trouble. So I went around the block and I came up and, like called him, and like I tried to talk to him, but he was like really incoherent. He was probably in a lot of pain. And like I got him an ambulance, so that's just the type of person I am. And like, and if I see someone, a vulnerable person struggling or in pain, I want to help. And that's exactly how I feel with MMIP, right?
Yeah.
I feel the exact same way. I know that our women and our young children and our young men are vulnerable right now, and let's figure this out.
Well, yeah, even just like like I said, checking our friends, making sure like we aren't the bad influence, and if they're if they're bringing things up in the wrong way, that that we try to make them aware, maybe school them on what we know, right? And and allowing ourselves to take those serious situations, and
make sure our people are getting home safe, like
and
because men influence other men, and that's
the big
what
thing,
it is, right?
the big thing about all this too is safety. Like making sure people are safe. Like me, like the only person I leave my children with is my mom. Like I only trust my mom with my kids. I won't always do whatever I can to make sure that my kids are safe, that my kids will never have to experience any of the intergenerational traumas. Like they're already experiencing intergenerational traumas because me and their mom couldn't be because we both come from intergenerational traumas, that we couldn't be in a healthy relationship together, right? And because neither of us knew what that was, so already right there, my kids have to experience intergenerational trauma, and they have to go through the traumas that I had to learn, that because I was raised by a single parent. But at least, with my kids, that I'm trying to break that cycle by being a present father, by being there with my kids and helping raise them and not leaving them behind, and not starting a whole bunch of other families and stuff like that.
So
like my three sons are with one woman, with their mother and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
so I've seen you over the years. You tried your best.
I tried my best. We got married. All these things. I worked I got a job in the trades, all this stuff. And, I tried to do all these things.
To step up, right?
Yeah, step up. I tried to lead by example with whether it was business or politics or entrepreneurship, all these things. And just like, while I was learning how to be a man, that's when I also started having my kids and having to try to teach them the same thing, right? And
me being an uncle / role model, like older role model, all my nieces and nephews, they all watch my behavior, right? So that's why I've made such a change in my life, and my example matters, and the lectures that I give them and the talks, because like I'll take them, I'll take them one-on-one, and we'll go for a ride, and like they'll break down to me, and it's not easy. I got 13 nieces and nephews, right? So it's a lot, but I'm here for the challenge. Boys learn how to treat women by watching men, right? And so I want to teach the young boys, and I also want to teach the young girls what to watch for, right?
Yeah, because it's not just what you say, it's what you do, right?
Yeah, of course. It's mostly what you do. Like it's more of what you do.
Well, because our boys and our young men are gonna learn how to treat women by watching how we treat women.
Yeah,
too, right?
and we're trying to break the cycle, right? And that's the big thing that I've seen with Jules, is he went at it and he learned some things and made some mistakes, and then that's just gonna be so much better for the next generation, right?
And there's so many people, like our people are making a million mistakes, and we have to learn to start forgiving and trusting. We have to start moving forward. We have to we got to learn and heal, and that's
we'll learn from our mistakes as well, right?
Yeah. And we gotta,
because we got to realize that we don't know everything. You know,
yes,
like our people,
100%,
people need to,
100%.
you know, you have to be willing to learn, right?
Yes, and you know, like
We
even
have to be willing to listen to women and families. You know, counseling.
yeah, continuing the conversations, keep them going, keep them, you know, keep bringing it up, you
Yeah,
know,
and then
and
using platforms like YouTube
yeah,
responsibly, right? You know, instead of perpetuating these, you know, these bad things like locker room talk,
yeah, and
right?
then just encouraging other men to educate themselves as well,
Yeah,
you know, and that's why we have this too. That's why we have this episode right now, because we want to tell the men that are watching, the younger men, older men, any age man, watching this episode, that you know we have to educate ourselves.
yeah.
You have to
Not
educate
being taught,
yourself.
not being taught explains the past. It doesn't excuse the future.
You know, this is you know, we're here to start this conversation. We're here to you know, create the awareness, because that's what matters.
Yeah, and we're here
You
to do
know,
it calmly and composed, right?
you know,
And
and
we're here to do it
respectfully.
together and
Yeah.
respectfully. This is just the starting of a conversation, right?
And you
You
know,
know,
like a lot of
awareness matters.
yeah,
Right?
a lot of us, like I said, a lot of us have vulnerable people in our lives, and
Yeah.
we need to check on them.
Yeah, check on them. Awareness
And
matters.
we need to listen and not judge.
Yeah,
You know, we
accountability
gotta stop.
matters.
That's the big thing too. We gotta stop judging each other, and judging, like, because that was the biggest thing
Yeah.
for us growing up, right?
Well,
Is
and we also
being
have to,
judged and scared of being judged.
we also have to hold ourselves accountable, and you know, mostly like hold ourselves accountable, because
Yeah.
holding someone else accountable doesn't always work. But when you're called on something, you need to look within and make sure you hold yourself accountable for that,
Yeah.
because respect matters. You know, check in on those people, like Jules said. Conversations should happen at home and among friends, and like anyone wants to have that conversation with me, or you know, help educate me
Yeah.
on the struggle.
Same thing with me.
Reach out.
Yeah, I'm always, you know, like, you can add us on Facebook, Jules Lavish on Facebook, Jack Fire on Facebook.
Jack Fire Frost. Oh
Yeah.
wait, it's Jack Fire on Facebook.
Yeah, on Facebook. Yeah. You can message us at, you can email us too. We have an email, contact@thenativeroom.com. You can visit you can also comment on this episode as well. Go in the comments, and, you know, like I read all the comments, and I can reply to the best of my knowledge and ability.
Yeah.
And, you know, that like I said, we're
We're here just to start the conversation. That's what this is about, right?
yeah, because like we said, we don't know everything about the MMIP movement.
Yeah, I'm here as a student, you know.
Yeah.
I'm here as a student, and you know, I want our people to be the teachers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because we want to remind people that, you know, we're not psychologists, we're not educated, like we're not post-secondary educated in this topic or in these topics. We are just two native guys with with the, like we said, with the camera, with the lights, and with the mics, and we're here to we're here to learn,
Yeah.
we're here to listen, and we're here to do our part to create awareness.
Yeah.
And, you know, like we 100%, we want to acknowledge, you know, the families that are still grieving and still searching for their missing and murdered family members. And it's an ongoing battle. You know, like, I know there's stuff we could have covered, or we missed, but like I said, we don't know all of this stuff.
Yeah. That's why it might be a bit of a shorter episode maybe this time, because like, yeah, there's just a lot that we don't know, and it's a touchy subject. It was difficult for me to get through this episode, because like I didn't want to take it personal and talk about personal struggle, and yeah.
We want to create awareness for Red Dress Day. You know, that's held annually on May 5th. And it's a National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and 2SLGBTQI plus people. And, but we, you know, like, we don't, like I said, we don't know all the abbreviations, everything that goes along with it. We're trying to learn. But we're kind of comfortable with saying MMIP, Missing and Murdered Indigenous People. And Um, we just we're doing this episode to honor, the lives of those people, that have been lost and
Yeah.
have been murdered and who are still missing, and the families, and the violence against them. And we need justice. Those families need justice. They need peace. Everybody, all our families need justice, and we need peace. Yeah. With that being said, let's all continue to do our part. Let's all move forward together.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, this is the Native Room. And
Say.
we'll see you next time.